Hey everybody, welcome to Pork Lift Certified. We got a couple of hard hogs here for you. What are we talking about this week, Mr. Jack?
Quarterback ranks.
I see your list in front of me, your own personal list, and I'm immediately mad about it. I'd like to get two things across here. Number one, I'm a Bears fan, so I'm not a very smart person. Number two, I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's talk about your number one.
Yeah. So my number one, Patrick Mahomes. He's the best. What are we talking? Who else is there for number one? I don't.
Do you want me to say?
Sure, go for it.
Josh Allen, going to have a better season. Jalen Hurts, definitely going to have a better season. Lamar Jackson, I would put him neck and neck, but I would say he's going to have a better season, but it's your list, not my list.
Yeah, so let's I think we have a lot of differences in this top four. I think most places you look will have the same top four, just in a different order.
Yeah.
For me, for information sharing to people, any one of those four as your top guy is fine. Really, the bigger breakdown for like room where you can gain an edge over people is where do you take these guys? And ideally, if we think all four of them are interchangeable, equal, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Lamar Jackson, you just want the last one, unless you feel really strongly about one of the others. I feel strongly about Mahomes. You feel strongly about Josh Allen. But for me, I'll just take the last one in a snake draft or the cheapest one in an auction draft.
Yeah. So I think if you haven't noticed from watching our other episodes, which no one has, Jack is a numbers guy. I'm a gut guy. Think about it.
That's all. Just think about it.
Just think about it. Just think about who you actually are as a person, and midway through the season, or most honestly, week one, when your guy either performs or doesn't perform, what's going to make you feel the best? Are you a numbers guy? Do you want to back it up analytically? Or are you a gut guy? I think he's going to pop off.
Sure. I don't think we have any. I don't know that we could say anything that would convince anyone to heavily change their top guys. Let's get into more of the meat of this list.
Yeah.
And start at number 5, where I think I'm going out a bit. I've got Joe Burrow at 5, ahead of guys like Stroud, ahead of guys like Anthony Richardson that are kind of really popular top guys right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Darby. That's my cat screaming at me. So top 5, you have Joseph Burrow. In that same area at 4, you have Lamar Jackson. That's pretty consistent with where everybody puts him. At number 6, you have Kyler Murray, who is usually ranked at 9.
Yes, the consensus has him at 9. I think it's wild.
Yeah, I think it is kind of wild. I don't know. Who do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Joe Burrow, or do you want to talk about Kyler Murray?
Let's say Joe Burrow, because I think the analysis is pretty straightforward. He still has great receivers. He still has a good offensive head coach. Yeah. He can still throw it. I expect him to be healed from what knocked him out last year. If during training camp we're hearing that he's not ready to go, I may slip him down. These are my first set of ranks, but right now I think he's going to throw for enough yards, throw for enough touchdowns that he can beat out some of these guys who rely on running.
Yeah, and you also have a wide receiver, Jamar Chase, he's a big yak guy, big yards after catch. That can get you a lot of additional points. I think the only thing that is weird to me is Joe isn't really a running QB, especially since his injuries. He does run because his offensive line has been so bad in the past, but that's not really what I would consider a running QB. Obviously, he's maybe a scrambler.
Yeah, I'm pulling up how little he runs.
Yeah.
2022, 257 yards. 2023, in 10 games, 88 yards.
Yeah,
not
and then
a lot.
21, it's 118, 20, it's 147, I think is what it is. So that average is probably definitely sub 200, right?
Yeah, you're not really getting any rushing upside.
Yeah, but still phenomenal QB. Might start just a hair slow. Don't rub your face on the mic. He'll have one, maybe two at most blow up games where he'll throw 4 interceptions against a not ideal team, but that's not really what you're drafting. You're
Yeah,
not
maybe
like,
one a year.
yeah, exactly. Maybe one a year. But that's not
you're
really
drafting-
something you need to worry about.
You're getting high touchdown upside.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I really like Joe Burrow. The Bengals are one of my favorite teams to follow. Just because you have that Burrow Chase connection, you have T. Higgins on there, you have, who's their third receiver? I can't grab off the top of my head, but you have a good receiving core, good offensive team. Joe's a great guy.
Let's go number 6.
Number 6, you've got Kyler Murray on here, who is ranked 9th by most. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Consensus. Expert consensus.
There we go. Got to ask every single week. Tell me what you like about Kyler Murray. Tell me what scares you about Kyler Murray.
He runs. He's got a great receiver coming into the league. He's got better receivers following him up. Kyler Murray last year, his best receiver was Hollywood Brown, and I don't know that they actually overlapped as much as people might think. So when he came back from injury mid-season, he's not really throwing to anyone. I think with the team there having the combination of Marvin Harrison, the tight end McBride, is that his name? And Zay Jones at receiver, they have enough guys catching the ball for him to throw for a fair amount of yards. He's going to be able to run, second year coming off of that knee injury. He's been a top guy for years and years. I expect him to fully bounce back and beat out some of these hotter names like CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's a guy that's been there. He's done it before. This is an offense that's going to be based, I don't want to say solely around him, but, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to need a little bit of time to acclimate, probably not a ton of time. But he is definitely, obviously he's the QB, but you know what I'm saying, that driving force.
Yeah, when you have one of the best QB wide receiver prospects in years, that's going to help the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. They've made other moves to help him get a little bit better, but this is a guy we've seen do it before. Even last year, he had a lot of really, really good games around injuries and whatnot, like you said, or around wide receiver injuries.
Exactly. Let's go with another guy who's done it before, number 7. I've got Dak Prescott. Expert consensus ranking is at 8. He's going to throw a lot of touchdowns.
He's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. The Cowboys consistently have a really good offensive line. They've got great wide receivers, very strong wide receivers. He's just a guy that gets it, he figures it out.
Yeah. He had a slow start last year, and then the Cowboys just decided to throw, and then throw some more. I think they're top 3 in passing yards last year. They're just going to throw it a ton. Yeah. So it feels safe. It's harder to fully stop. If for some reason CeeDee Lamb didn't play this year, this ranking would heavily change. But going into the season, I feel fine that the steps backward that they've taken with offensive weapons, losing Tony Pollard, it doesn't seem like a huge thing, but I think it's going to hurt them. A couple other missing pieces, but I just don't know that it's going to hurt them enough to completely kill the upside that Dak has.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from this list that I'm looking at right now, I feel like, we jumped over our S tier, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Allen, Lamar Jackson. I feel like personally this is the end of the A tier. I think with Joseph Burrow, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, the next person you have on your list at number 8 is Justin Herbert. I think you could say that he would be up there with the wide receiver core as it looks. I don't love it. I think it'll be very good, but I could see it being cut off that A tier: Burrow, Murray, Prescott. What are your thoughts there?
So let's start talking about some of those guys. So we've got Prescott at 7, who to me seems a little safe. And then I feel like these next guys are all high upside, possibly lower floor guys. So I've got Justin Herbert at 8, Richardson at 9, CJ Stroud at 10, Tua at 11. Those feel like they could all blow up this year. Justin Herbert has been QB2 on a year before. I think the new coaching coming in will help him to not. It's a tough one to talk about because people think. I mean, his consensus rank is 16th. People think he's going to take a huge step back with these coaches, and I think that that's not how I see the situation. I see better coaches coming in and using a great player and finding ways to make him successful. Yes, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that that's something I totally agree with. I think we're definitely into our blue-collar hog territory right here. I think if you are in snake draft or auction draft, you're probably going to get Justin Herbert pretty easily, a little bit later than you would expect from previous seasons. And I would be happy with having him as my number 1 QB.
I think I'm going to have him all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. That we do an auction league together. I feel like, if anything, it's going to be you and I bidding on him. But honestly, prices are still going to be down. And I would be ecstatic. Because like you said, coaching makes a huge difference. And I don't think they would have gotten rid of Keenan Allen if they didn't have a plan.
Yeah. This coaching staff hasn't ever lost. Harbaugh was always over 500. I think he was 500 or one game under the year that he was fired in San Francisco. But it's just a track record of success at the NFL level, even after taking over bad teams and people thinking they're entering a rebuilding era. He's just a really good coach. So I think there's a lot of room for value. I mean, we're taking him at 8. I'm not saying he's going to be the best guy or be QB2, but I think he's a starter in a 10-team league. I think he's a starter in a 12-team league, and he's going at 16.
Yeah. This is definitely a situation. If you're in an auction league, you could spend your money on a wide receiver, running back, put a little bit of extra money into a tight end, and you could come out with Herbert pretty cheap and have an absolute juggernaut of a team.
Yeah. They've got early second-round pick Ladd McConkey, last year first-round pick Quentin Johnston, who had a rough first year. But I think with better coaching, we'll see Quentin Johnston bounce back a little bit. I'm not projecting superstardom from him, but we don't need superstardom for QB 16 in the ranks to actually end up as QB 8. Let's get off of him and cover some other high ceiling guys. I've got Richardson at 9 and CJ Stroud at 10, excuse me. Their consensus ranks 6 and 5. So I think people see that these guys will take a step forward, and they're already pricing that into where you need to draft them to get them.
Yeah.
For moving from Herbert, where I think you and I are going to end up having a lot of Justin Herbert, I don't think I'm going to end up with Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud very much at all.
I agree because of, like you said, the price point. And that's the thing. What I would say was, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've really started to talk myself into CJ Stroud. I think sophomore slump is definitely a thing that happens a fair amount.
Yeah,
I can't undercut adding Singletary to what was already a very strong offense for a rookie. There's a part of me that could talk.
Adding Diggs?
Yeah, sorry, Diggs. Yeah, Stephon Diggs. Sorry, I don't know where Singletary came from.
They are losing Singletary at running back and bringing in Joe Mixon and then bringing in Stephon Diggs. But yeah, I think adding those players is really going to help this offense.
But however, value. If it was snake draft, I would take CJ Stroud. I could talk myself easily into saying CJ Stroud is like my number 6 QB.
Talk about that, because I'll try to find an ADP.
Yeah, I mean, this just seems like a coaching staff that knew what they wanted and really played to the strengths of what they had. And that is obviously incredibly important. He might have some issues here and there, but it would be something that I think that they would figure out pretty quickly and really make things work. And if you're adding a receiving running back like Mixon and, Diggs, I mean, that is humongous. However, if we're talking value, I think everybody's going to want a piece of CJ Stroud.
Yes. The ADP right now that I'm seeing on Fantasy Pros, I don't have a total understanding of what this is pulling, and it's really early in the season to have any sort of ADP, but they've got him at 45. I don't know if that's for 10-team league, 12-team league, but that would be mid 5th round in a 10-team league, and that's way too early for me to be, you're drafting him to go from, what did he have in touchdowns last year? Mid 20s, and you want him to jump that up 8 to 10 just to hit that value that you're paying for.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think he can do that, but I feel like the rank of 6 or 5 for CJ Stroud, I see these guys interchangeably with just ranked too high. The rank of 5 for Stroud just doesn't show the floor or the possibility of that sophomore slump for a QB.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what's hard to talk about with Stroud in particular. I think this is going to be like the apex of this conversation of, he is very, very good. He's probably going to continue to be very, very good. But I just don't want to pay that money for him.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you can grab him, you're going to have a great time. I don't foresee myself in my auction leagues making a move besides just trying to bait people into paying more money so I can get a tight end for cheaper,
Yeah, I think it's fun to root for an exciting young team. I don't know that you would have a good time. I think you'd look at this and think, I drafted one of the top quarterbacks and he's just being fine. And Dak Prescott, who someone drafted way later, is scoring the same amount or more points. You'll just start to feel like, man, I wish I had gotten someone else, or I wish I had waited.
Yeah. I think once we get a little bit closer to the season, I really want to see you put that flag in the ground, and because I think that's especially going to be a very interesting matchup of who do you think is going to end up with more points at the end of the season, Prescott or Stroud? Because I could see myself leaning towards Stroud, and I know you definitely lean towards Prescott.
I do, but I think that's a good point to bring up, because when I do my ranks, I am not thinking of who is going to score the most points solely. I mean, obviously that's going to be part of it, but I think of it just more as who am I more comfortable drafting. So this is my preliminary set of ranks. I will eventually go through and get full stat projections, and then I can see as I'm reading through them, like, does this make sense? Is this in line with things they've done before? Is the jump in production justified, or is the other direction, like, is the fall off in production justified within these projections? And start to come up with a story, but we don't know what they're going to do. The projections are usually not correct across the league. So it's, some of it is gut. Like, who do I feel safer taking? Which is why I have Herbert high. I trust that coaching staff. I trust this quarterback. I don't know that I can trust that Anthony Richardson is going to blow up. I believe it. I think he could finish as a top 4 guy, but I think he could get hurt again, or I think he could be found out pretty early on. He's only started in 4 games. I am not willing to take that risk that high when I could just get a good receiver in the 5th, 6th round, or a good running back in the 5th, 6th round, and then get a quarterback I feel safe with that has similar upside later.
Yeah. So what we're looking at, we're talking here, essentially you have Anthony Richardson at 9, CJ Stroud at 10 on your current, it is July 2nd, fantasy QB rankings. Why is it that you're putting Richardson above Stroud then?
The rushing upside.
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
When I'm looking at a young quarterback, if they're taking a step backwards in their production, it's usually not in rushing because they have that natural skill set. It's easier to run than it is to read a defense and then execute a pass correctly.
Yeah.
It's hard to, when you're watching the game and they say the defense is really confusing the quarterback, that's not as likely when they're just running. If you're just faster than those guys, like you could be dumb as rocks. You just outrun them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We saw that with he's not going to show up in the ranks with Justin Fields as a Bears fan. He could miss things when reading defenses, was a little bit slow to get through some progressions. But if he just runs and is faster, and if the offense kind of designs things around that, it's a huge mismatch for the defense. And Anthony Richardson, on top of that, is humongous. So if he's running and he's hard to bring down, you don't have to be the best thrower. CJ Stroud is going to get most of his production by throwing, and that is somewhere he could take a step back.
Yeah, and that's for somebody like me who's a meatball gut guy. It's always important for me to think about football versus fantasy.
Yeah.
Like making sure that I'm constantly thinking like, well, this guy they had a really good season. They went to the playoffs, so on and so forth. But also fantasy-wise, I think you have a lot of really good reasons to put Richardson above Stroud. Now, being a gut guy, a full-on meatball, I don't know that I would do that, but I can absolutely be talked into that as well. So
keep it moving.
Keep it moving here. Number 11, you've got Tua Tagovailoa.
Let's group up 11, 12, and 13 together. So I've got Tua at 11, Brock Purdy at 12, and Jordan Love at 13. That's right in line with consensus. I would think I think of these guys as a tier of they're all pocket passers. They can all throw really well. They'll have good offenses around them. If everyone is healthy for the Dolphins, starting with Tua, in games where everybody was playing, Tua was throwing a ton and putting up huge touchdown numbers. If it stays like that, just the team health overall, he could easily jump up top 5, top 6. He was on that production pace for a stretch of last year when everybody was healthy.
So let's just talk for a second here. You've got Tua at 11, Brock Purdy at 12. Let's just talk about those two because that's, kind of the same position, sort of, two good QBs, great offenses around them. What makes you think that, let's just talk consistent averages throughout the season, that Tua is above Purdy? Do you feel like that he will have that better average performance, or do you really feel like that depends on health of the roster?
I think it depends on health of the roster, and I think Tua has more upside. I think Brock Purdy, we saw what his ceiling was last year. So I'm not projecting him to match what he did last year, but last year he was like QB5, QB6, and now he's ranked at 11, 12. So I think we've already kind of taken Brock Purdy's numbers, created projections that seem more in line with what he should regress back to. He was really efficient when throwing last year. Had good touchdown numbers compared to how much he was throwing. Got away with some balls that should have been intercepted. Even if he performs like I think he actually is, it's like QB 11, QB 12, which is really good. Tua, we saw that upside, and it's 40 to 50 touchdowns. I don't know that Brock Purdy has 40 to 50 touchdowns within his range of outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I will say on the other side, between the Dolphins and the Niners, who do you think has the better receiving core?
Dolphins, well, we got Tua, Jalen Waddle, and then some good running backs that'll catch the ball every once in a while. And then, man, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey out of the backfield.
Yeah.
I think Tua's the best guy. Jalen Waddle's really solid, but overall,
you mean Tyreek?
Team, Yeah, Tyreek.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Probably, I mean, maybe 49ers, because they just have guys across the board.
Yeah. And then as far as run game, if you're looking fantasy points for QB, so like receiving, running backs, I don't know, the Niners again, right?
Yeah, probably.
So I think I only bring that up to say, like, I don't think I even disagree with having Tua above Purdy, but I could definitely see myself being talked into Purdy just because of what is around him. And then other question, which is kind of difficult, coaching staff wise, Niners versus Dolphins.
I think there's been a longer track record of success out of the 49ers coaches, but Dolphins are pretty good too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lose a ton of sleep if I'm in a draft and I want one of these guys. I'm really just gonna take whichever one's there. Personally, I think Tua has the chance, is more likely to throw 5 touchdowns in a game than Brock Purdy,
Yeah.
or is more
Yeah.
likely to have more 3 touchdown games than Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
But they're pretty interchangeable. What we're talking about here is, if we're looking at total yards per game, Dolphins are number 1, 49ers are number 2. If we're talking about points per game, it's Dolphins at 2, 49ers at 3. So you're kind of just splitting hairs between these two. They're both really, really good.
Yeah, if you're a dingus like me and you worry about reoccurring injuries, which I don't usually try to do that with injuries, with concussions, I can definitely get more on board, and I could see myself putting Purdy over Tua. But honestly, I as much as I've tried to talk myself into Purdy, I think I would also take Tua above him, just because, like you said, I think Tua's floor is closer to Purdy's ceiling. They both have really comparable offenses, both coaching and player wise.
Yeah, they're both on the best offenses in the league.
Yeah.
It's those two and last year, the Cowboys. Let's cover some Jordan Love. So I've got him at 13. He's consensus ranked 10. When I was watching him last year, he was just rough out of the gate.
Yeah.
Early part of the season, had some rough games, had some fourth quarter comebacks that were his fault. But then went on for a stretch to hit the playoffs, and that was Jordan Love. Like, I think that is true. I believe the second half more than the first half, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I believe the
Packers-
growth. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The Packers have consistently shown that they are a coaching staff that can make players better. And I think that they really proved that with, how Jordan Love looked at the beginning and how he ended up, just like the consistency there. And like you said, having an offense that works around that too is humongous, and that comes down to coaching and using what they have well.
Yeah. I might find that I have him rated too low, but there's just so many good quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. And he's more, like you said, he's a pocket passer. So if we're in pocket passer town, I could definitely see myself taking Love over, at 14 you have Jaden Daniels. At 15 you have Jared Goff. I think that's probably the only rub that I might have there, is Goff was very good. I mean, that offense was very good last year. Goff was good because he didn't throw a lot of picks, especially for the first half, 3/4 of the season. That was great to have. But I think it's kind of like what we talked about before, is Jordan Love is younger. He showed a lot of growth, and I really think he's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Which I, as a Bears fan, hate. I, as a fantasy fan, it's going to make it really interesting.
Yeah. So I see a break between where I have at 13 and then Jaden Daniels at 14, where Jaden Daniels, rookie, we expect him to run a lot. We've just never seen him in a game. And I think that this ranking at 14 has some of this upside built in, and then just a ton of fear of he's a rookie. We've never seen him. Consensus rank, he's 13, so I'm right in line with the consensus, and I think that people just don't totally know what to expect. And if I'm picking a guy that after 4 weeks we'll say was the the most off in their ranking, either way, in either direction, it could be Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely the wild card here. Where, like you said, if he's running the ball a lot, that could be a lot of fantasy points. But that's not everything. You know, we're not really sure what that offense is going to look like, what he is going to look like, especially coming out of the gate.
Since we've started the show and going through off-season overviews, this is the biggest mover that I've seen going up the ranks, Jaden Daniels. I think people are just coming around to what's so different between him and Anthony Richardson. Like, we've seen Anthony Richardson in 4 games. People can look at their body size and say Richardson's bigger, should be more durable. But in those 4 games, like, we have not seen him be more durable than the smaller Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I think we've covered that pair quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, something that we haven't totally brought up a lot with Jaden Daniels, he has good receiving options. Like Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson are 2 good receivers. He has Austin Eckler out of the backfield. That's free yards. You just dump it off to him and he runs. So I could see upside here.
Yeah, definitely. But like you said, it's going to be more of a wait and see thing. If I can get him late or if I can get him cheap, yeah, I'd love to put him on the bench and see if he starts to perform.
I've got a next tier here, looking at 15 through 20. Jared Goff at 15, Trevor Lawrence at 16, Kirk Cousins 17, Caleb Williams 18, Matthew Stafford at 19, Aaron Rodgers at 20. I think each one of these guys could have blow up weeks where their team needs to be throwing. We expect them all to be capable of throwing. Caleb, we just haven't seen it. Everyone else, we have seen them lead comebacks, lead shootouts, and get 3-4 touchdowns, 300 yards. I just don't know that they're going to need to be doing it a lot. And that's really how I would describe all of these guys other than Caleb, who we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have Jared Goff at 15, Trevor Lawrence at 16, Kirk Cousins 17, Caleb Williams 18, Stafford at 19. Who jumps out to you the most out of just those 5 right there?
These are the most interchangeable guys that I can think of. I think every one of them, any one of these guys, we could get 5 weeks in and go, oh, they're QB 7. Wouldn't have thought that, but like, that happens. Like, Kirk Cousins was QB like 5 through 5 weeks last year. Any one of these guys could do that.
I think, okay, so we've talked about Jared Goff a little bit. Trevor Lawrence is kind of who Trevor Lawrence is, I think, at this point in time. I don't think he's going to pop off, really. Caleb Williams, rookie, I think he's going to be a wild card. I think Matt Stafford, very good receiving core, great coaching there. He's just getting up a little bit in years. But I think having Kirk Cousins, your rank at 17, and then the consensus rank at 18, I think is wild. I
In
think
which way?
I think Kirk Cousins is going to be top 10 easy. That's what I'm putting down. That's the flag I'm putting down.
Sure.
But the thing is that, what I come back to a lot is he doesn't have Justin Jefferson. When was the last time we saw him without Justin Jefferson, really? So I could see that making a difference, but this is a guy who's been in the league, and, if your team needs to come back, he can do that for you. If your team needs consistency, he can do that for you. I personally like seeing Kirk Cousins the 17-18 slot because we run a 2 QB league. I could see myself having a Kirk Cousins as a second QB. Because there's not a ton of people in there, and him, being my number 1 a lot of weeks. I don't know. Maybe that's just the meatball in me talking.
No. I think you're spot on. Some of it's if he was on the Vikings again, and it was just the repeat of last year, I'd probably have him 13, 12. It's changing teams, coming off the Achilles tear, also getting older. That's where I'm bringing it back down and saying there is a lower floor. There is that chance that it doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all of these guys I could see having good stretches.
Mm-hmm.
They're all
Yeah.
really good options in a 2 QB league. It's just a really deep quarterback year compared to 5
Definitely.
years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think for me, Kirk Cousins and Matt Stafford are right there together, but I would take Cousins over Stafford all day. I think Stafford gets into throwing 1 or 2 picks, a couple games in a row kind of thing. I don't know. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be incredible with the Falcons. I'm going to put that with Robinson in the backfield, taking a lot of that heat off of you.
Yeah.
I think that could be something really big.
He's a great
there.
receiving back, too.
Yeah. And, you could talk about the other players, like Pitts is on there. I'm trying to remember who their top wide receiver is off the top of my head.
Drake
for the Falcons.
London.
Yeah, London can be very good. Like we've seen definitely some spurts of him
We
being
expect
very
him
strong.
to be.
We expect him to be very good, and that was, he was doing well with ungreat QBs, we'll put it,
Among the worst.
Yeah.
in probably, if you took the last 5 seasons, I think the quarterbacks that the Falcons had last year, so adding in extra like seasons of quarterback play
Yeah.
over the past 5 years, they'd still be bottom 3.
Yeah, I think I could easily talk myself into Kirk Cousins starting the season. I mean, if I'm just looking at your list right now, I don't love saying this out loud, but I also think it feels right. I could put Cousins
Say
above
it.
Stroud, Richardson, Herbert, maybe even Burrow, to be honest with you. That's a disgusting thing to say, and I hate saying it
I
because
think it's a little bit too high.
I think it
but
is a little bit too
I
high.
understand the sentiment.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the kind of value you could be getting with him sitting here in that 17-18 slot.
Sure. I could see myself swapping Kirk up to 15 where Jared Goff is. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
kind of that same
Yeah.
tier. Jaden Daniels, I could see kind of moving down, but he's still the same guy where you can be top 6 just on running, top 5 just
Yeah.
on running.
Yeah.
And we're expecting that from him.
Yeah.
Let's
I don't
cover
know.
Aaron
I don't know if I'm ready to
Rodgers.
fully plant my flag there. I just want to say, but I got that nasty feeling in me. I got that, I got to get in the
Yeah.
slop a little bit. I'm
We
liking it.
both like Kirk.
I do. I love to hate him too.
Aaron Rodgers, similar situation. He's on a different team. He'll have an extra offseason with that team, sort
Yes,
of.
it won't be present for.
Yeah. But older than Kirk Cousins, much better career than Kirk Cousins, but older, similar Achilles tear, good young receiver who's had bad quarterbacks that we think should be a great receiver. I don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could fully bounce back, but I'm just going to keep that floor. Man, I think it could be low.
Yeah. I agree that it could be low. I mean, looking at the rest of your list beyond 20, yeah, I'd be more than happy to take Aaron Rodgers over every single one of those guys any day of the week.
Yeah.
Would I take him over Matt Stafford? I might. Would I take him over Caleb Williams? No. Kirk Cousins? No. Trevor Lawrence? Probably no. Like, it does feel right. Him sitting at 20 feels perfect right now. He could pop off. I don't know that I want to take that risk.
When we get into this range of the ranks, it's even further from predicting who will score the most and just saying, who am I most comfortable with?
Yeah.
Who does I've read a bunch of stats, heard a bunch of opinions, I mush all that together and then go with my gut. Like, who's going to make me happiest or least sad if I miss on?
Yeah.
And that's where I end up with Aaron Rodgers at 20.
Yeah. Or even like, who's going to play the most? Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson in there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I've got
you know?
a tier break of we had 5 or 6 guys that I think are going to be consistently pretty decent with some upside. And let's go into more wild cards here.
Yeah.
Like 21, I've got Daniel Jones. He's consensus rank 26. He can run.
Yeah.
He's coming off of an injury, though, where he might not run as much.
Yeah.
He
But-
is also kind of bad.
Yes. But at the same time, a lot of his running was running to save his life. So maybe if he can use that at more opportune times with,
Yeah.
hopefully an offensive line that's gotten better with signings.
Yeah.
I like Daniel Jones at 21. I would feel comfortable right there at 21. I might take him over Aaron Rodgers because it might be funny. Do
Sure.
I believe in that? No. Like you said, this tier here with Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, so on and so forth. Mostly the next few guys we're going to talk about is, like you said, it's a gut feeling thing. I
Yeah.
would take DJ. He's, like you said, he can run.
Let's
think they're gonna
go
be a little bit better.
a little bit of lightning round on these last guys.
Oh,
You just-
my camera go away.
Okay. I was wondering what had happened. So Daniel
Yeah,
Jones,
go
we
ahead.
just covered some of him. Russell Wilson, I don't know if you feel differently. I've got him, the consensus has him at 29. I think that's a fear around Justin Fields. I'm not really thinking about that. And when we get this late, man, I don't care. Like
Yeah.
even in a bad year last year, Russell Wilson was better than 22. And we think it's a slightly better situation for him. I still see some top 12 upside for him and not
Yeah.
that much. I mean, I guess the downside would be he's not starting anymore. Justin Fields would have taken that job for him.
Yeah.
But at 22, that's not a realistic issue for fantasy owners. You don't go into, I mean, I guess it is possible that he gets benched mid game, but most of the time you go into a week knowing that he's starting or not. So you don't feel that loss in your lineup because you would have just replaced him.
Yeah. I don't know why my camera's not working. I assume you can still hear me, correct?
Yeah, we could still hear it.
Okay. I don't think there's any chance in hell that Russell Wilson starts more games that Justin Fields starts more
I don't
games
think so
than
either.
Russell Wilson. There's
don't
not a
think so
chance
either.
in hell that I don't think it's even really going to happen that he plays more minutes in a game or equal minutes to Russell Wilson, even if Wilson goes out there and puts an absolute shitter up.
If I had to bet, I think it's Russell Wilson starting every game, performing decently well,
Yeah.
and Justin Fields getting some good preseason tape, getting some good
Yep.
love from coaches and word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on to the next guy. I've got Derek Carr. He's been a good quarterback for a long time. Not really a great fantasy option. He doesn't run. He's not
Yeah.
an amazing pocket passer.
No.
Consensus rank has him at 25. I'm bumping him up to 23. I like the new offensive scheme coming from San Francisco to the Saints. We've seen a lot of guys outperform the general opinion of them in offenses like this. I think it's really quarterback friendly. They have a great receiver that they can run this offense through. They have Alvin Kamara. Derek Carr dumps it off a lot. He's comfortable throwing to his running backs. I see upside here. I don't see a ton of downside. But 23.
Yeah, I this, like, it's a grab bag. I don't believe in Derek Carr at all. I know that this offense has got some pretty good looks, but the Raiders' offense had some really good looks too.
Yeah.
I just don't care about Derek Carr at all. I wouldn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. I would feel better taking Baker Mayfield over him.
Expand on that because I'll follow up.
Yeah, I just think that I don't know. I believe a little bit more in Tampa Bay's coaching. believe in what they're expecting of Mayfield to do, you know? And like you said, you've got Evans out there. Like, granted, like you do have good wide receivers. You have Alvin Kamara also at running back on the Saints. I just don't think Derek Carr's got that dog in him as much as he wants to believe, you know? I think Baker Mayfield is going to go out there and he's going to throw the ball up to an incredibly tall receiver. Derek Carr's got Chris Olave, Shaheed, Cedric Wilson Jr., but like, I don't believe in this team.
It's Olave and then not much else.
Yeah, exactly. And Olave, what's he going into his third year? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just believe in Mayfield having, you know, that one really big target that he can just throw it up to. Derek Carr, I think, is going to do stupid stuff even more because I think there is an expectation of himself almost is what it's always felt like watching Derek Carr.
That's fair.
Oh, I'm the guy that can do this. And it's like, bud, we've been watching you for a decade. You're not the guy.
Yeah, there's 22 other guys we would rather have easily.
Yeah,
and for you, there's like a couple more.
Yeah, maybe 25 guys, 26 guys. I might be leaning towards Bryce Young over DC.
I could see that.
Yeah, I don't like Derek Carr. I don't really love anybody besides Kamara or Olave for this team, you know.
Let's change up the conversation and go with Deshaun Watson. Like, he's got top 5 upside.
Yeah,
we just haven't seen it in multiple years.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely just feels like one of those guys that like had that upside, had issues outside of football, and then went and got a giant bag and is just riding it out, you know. I don't believe in Deshaun Watson. It, you know, like last year was injuries, right? But
it was injuries.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Deshaun?
I don't believe too much in the concept of he got paid so he stopped trying. But we haven't seen it with this guy in so long.
Yeah. What would you call that for Russell Wilson then? Because I don't think it's exactly like he got paid so he's not trying. But we saw Russell Wilson go to the Broncos for a lot and just
stink
his ass off.
Both of these guys stunk for what we thought they would do. Like, looking at Russell Wilson's stats last year, he was usable in a 2-quarterback league.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson should still be able to run. We've seen him read defenses. We've seen him make throws. I don't know what it is. I think Russ is getting older. I think Russ is away from the best coaches that he had. He's past his best coaching. I think he's just on the decline. Deshaun, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to bundle them together because one makes sense and one just really, it's in Deshaun Watson's range of outcomes to be number 5 at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We'd say, oh man, he's bounce back player of the year, but he has that skill set. He can throw it deep. He can read a defense. He can run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see. I don't believe in an upside for Deshaun Watson. I would like to be wrong. I think that would make it really interesting if the Browns did have a very strong QB, or for the love of God, a serviceable QB that isn't 700 years old at the end of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't believe in Deshaun. I would put Deshaun under Mayfield. I would get close to putting Deshaun under I wouldn't put it under I would put him under Geno last year with the coaching staff, but since those changes, who knows? I don't like Deshaun. I don't think it's gonna pop off.
That's fair. Would you take Deshaun Watson or Will Levis?
Ooh.
Yeah. I feel like we're hitting the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah, we're well beyond the bottom of the barrel. Would you take Deshaun or Bryce Young? Bryce has got some options. Bryce has got some options now.
They both have upside. If and this is again we're at the end of the ranking, so it's last time I'll say it, because Deshaun Watson has way higher upside than I think Bryce Young has. That's why I would lean Deshaun. If I'm picking for 9 times out of 10 to have more points, then it's Bryce Young. But at that point, if you're saying like this guy had the 21st most points versus the 22nd, 23rd, I don't care as much. Like I'll just take that extra shot at upside with Deshaun. That I don't see in Bryce Young.
Yeah, I think that would be fair. Definitely.
Let's cover Geno Smith, because I don't know that we need to say much more than he's a worse Derek Carr.
But does he have a better receiving core?
He absolutely does. I think he's just a slightly worse player. He's a good NFL quarterback that is probably out of the league in 3 to 5 years, or back to being a backup.
Yeah. Will Levis, you got anything for that guy?
Upside. He's got upside. He's also got like multiple interception downside. This will probably change over the summer as I see him play.
Yeah, obviously we're at the bottom of the barrel here. I think my bottom of the barrel. All right, so let's go through this. Starting at 23 through 28 here. Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, Geno Smith, Will Levis. I would put Baker at the top.
That's fine.
I like the vibe of that team for what they're asking him to do. I know I've said that a couple times already, but like if you are down to this point in a draft and you need somebody to come off the bench later in the season, I would take Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, it depends on and it'll depend on your league structure. If you're looking for consistent points each week, if you're in a super deep league where you need this guy starting every week, I could see that argument for Baker.
Yeah, like that's where I'm going to leave it. I think I've stated that enough now. I don't think Bryce Young is going to have a great year. I think he's going to be a QB that needs to be in for 4 or 5 years and have the team figure their shit out, to give him the opportunity to be good. But odds are he's just going to get Justin Fields, like he does have better wide receivers now. But when you're a team that wins 2 games, is it 2 games or 3 games?
Does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, it's just there are so many holes to fill. And you're looking at a team that this guy could be really good, but we need everybody to be really good at the same time to be a decent team,
Yeah. I think the counterpoint to that is they made a lot of moves. They signed offensive linemen. They brought in a new head coach. If it's going to happen, like you need there to be a catalyst for a big change like that. And I see one. I may end up moving Bryce Young up in my rankings.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think he'll have similar stats to Derek Carr, but more upside. So I could see him going up into the 22, 23 range. I think I see a reason to believe that he jumps up and could finish as QB. I'd say I'd go as high as, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was QB 14. QB 13 on the year.
I think this is a good conversation to have because we're here trying to – nobody needs to know that Jalen Hurts is going to be good this year. Everybody already knows that he's going to be good in Jack. So we're trying to find the value here, and I do agree with this. That could be the catalyst. But keep in mind, we're talking going from the bottom of the toilet bowl to the top of the toilet bowl.
Yeah. But I think he could do it, and I don't think Geno Smith could.
Totally agree.
Yeah, Geno Smith is he's gonna just Geno around.
Let's fight. I know we skipped the S tier here. Let's talk the top 4 here for a minute. We're at the end of the episode. Let's fight about this, okay? So your rankings.
Yes.
Number 1, Patrick Mahomes.
Patty.
Number 2, Jalen Hurts, which I'm just going to go ahead and say I also have Jalen Hurts at number 2, so that's pretty easy. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 4, Lamar Jackson. Why are you putting Patrick Mahomes up top versus Jalen Hurts even?
I think he just bounces back in touchdowns and yards. He seems really safe. I think last year is probably his worst year.
Because of drops, mostly, let's be honest.
Yeah, drops turning into interceptions that should have been continued drives, sustained drives, the type of drives that Patrick Mahomes normally turns into game-winning touchdown drives, became interceptions. That's a small number of stats, but
Yeah.
I'll take that and turn that point to say he's incredibly talented and just did not have the talent around him last year. If we're saying just quarterback talent, he's obviously number 1.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I think that he had a down year with receivers, and we have a reason to believe that that will come back up, and he has number 1 in his range of outcomes. And I think in his worst year, he finished QB 8. I could see Josh Allen falling to QB 12. Like, he doesn't have that many options. If he tweaked his leg and could still play but could no longer run like he does, like, yeah, that would be a bad year for Josh Allen.
Yeah. So, I agree. Patrick Mahomes, best football QB. Let's put it that way. Football versus fantasy. Best football QB, Patrick Mahomes. The squad that Jalen Hurts has around him, though, do you feel like you're putting him at number 2 because the tush push might go away? Is this a vibe thing? Like, what are we talking here?
I definitely think the tush push takes a step back. I mean, Jalen Hurts had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. I don't think he does that again. But he's got great receivers around him. He's got a great running back around him. I mean, I've got him QB 2. I just think Patrick Mahomes has that ceiling to hit 1. I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hurts was QB 1. I just like the throwing ability of Mahomes a lot.
Yeah. But what about the rushing ability? Who do you think is better running, Mahomes or Hurts?
Oh, it's Hurts a million times over.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I know this is like a dumb kind of nitpicky thing, but if I'm in a snake draft, I think this could be pretty big. Like, maybe I just need to look at the stats from last season and I would shut up immediately. But I don't know. I think technically, let's be real here. I'm just going to put it all on the table, then I'm going to go back to the bit. I think Jalen Hurts is my number 1 QB. I'm going to ride Josh Allen till he's dead because that's my road dog, and I believe that I'm trying to build a legacy here.
Fine. It's fine.
A personal fantasy football legacy. We'll talk about Josh Allen next, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the number 1 QB. I think it's going to be pretty clean cut is what I'm putting down. Because if you have Saquon Barkley back there, both as a runner and receiving out of the backfield, that is humongous. You still have A.J. Brown, who is really good. Devontae Smith, Yep.
Got Dallas Goedert, tight end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, me personally, I would put Hurts at number 1. I understand why you're saying Mahomes, but if I'm in a snake draft, I'm taking, outside of the bit, I'm probably taking Jalen Hurts.
Are you worried losing a Hall of Fame center? Like, I think that helps.
Yeah, I think
we're picking nits.
Yeah, exactly. But snake draft, you kind of want to do that. That's my thought. Auction draft, I don't care. If I end up with either one of these guys, I'm ecstatic. Snake draft, though, I'm picking nits.
Sure.
I am worried about losing a Hall of Fame center. I still think this is going to be one of the best teams in the league. I think fantasy-wise, I think he's still going to be... I think the tush push is still going to work. I think you could go push him more off of a guard. You can make adjustments if you need to. I don't think that's something that's going to go away. If it takes a dip and he goes to 10 rushing touchdowns or 12 rushing touchdowns instead of 15, that's still very good.
That's still a lot.
That's still a shitload.
Yeah.
So,
and he has that... Yeah. he can do that.
That's what I've been preparing for all week. Is I'm taking the stand of I think snake draft Jalen Hurts. I think is the number one QB.
Yeah, and for people listening, that's just really when you bring up the difference between snake draft and auction draft. Snake draft, you don't always get to get your specific guy, so it's who would you take first. Compare if you don't think you could get the other guy later or cheaper. Where in an auction draft, you could get every single person you want. It's just the price.
Yeah, or just the price. So number 3 and number 4, you have Josh Allen at 3, Lamar Jackson at 4. Now this is where I think it gets a little bit interesting, because I am obviously a Josh Allen stan. I think he's big enough to where he doesn't get hurt. He runs like an idiot and he still survives somehow. Obviously, wide receiver core is very different.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me is the receivers.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting about that. I don't know. We'll get into that here in a minute. So if you putting Josh Allen at 3 and Lamar at 4, does that mean that you just like the wide receiver core of the Bills better than the Ravens?
No, I like that Lamar runs.
Yeah,
it's really just the running. He does it so
Compared
well
to-
comparatively to Josh Allen, because Lamar has the physical skill to put up a breakaway touchdown run, and Josh Allen will get red zone touchdowns and can scramble for yards.
Mm-hmm.
But Lamar can scramble for yards too, but then has that ability to make people miss in the open field and just beat them with speed. So it's bigger play upside from Lamar.
So why do you have Allen over Lamar?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess I misread the question. Josh Allen over Lamar. They're very good at getting red zone touchdowns to Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He's consistently been able to throw. I could move Josh Allen after Lamar,
Mm-hmm.
but he's been healthy, a better track record of health, more yards and more throwing touchdowns, really.
Yeah. So snake draft, you come down to, you have the option of Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Still taking Hurts?
Yeah.
Hurts is off the board. You're taking Allen?
Yeah. Most of
Okay.
the time, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I really feel like my number one QB, if given the option, because, I'm talking from an auction draft right now, I still see myself going for Josh Allen.
That's fair.
I think what intrigues me about the auction draft, though, is for our league, people know how much I spent last year on Josh Allen, and I think I could get some folks to overbid, and then I could just let him go to somebody else. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know. I think my brain says Jalen Hurts is my number 1 in a snake draft. Josh Allen is my number 2 in a snake draft. My heart says take Allen and let it ride.
Just let it ride.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it's about having fun as well. Like, you want to win. Winning is fun.
Yeah,
But you want to have fun while you win, so take Josh Allen.
I mean, I do genuinely believe in Allen also. I think it's putting a little bit more pressure on him to do more, so that could lead to more rushing yards. Could also lead to him getting killed, but, I don't know. Who is this your top 5 here? Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Jackson, Burrow.
I could change Burrow for Kyler.
Yeah.
But the top 4 I have locked, and then 5 it could be other guys.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting. I don't know. I'm excited to see, as much as I've talked myself into Hurts being the best fantasy QB over the past 2 weeks. Who knows what it's going to look like in another 2 weeks? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting that you're so concerned over who the top guy is, and I'm just the opposite of, I
Yeah.
don't know, whichever one of these four I can get for cheaper.
Yeah. That's definitely as I said from the top of the show, you're the numbers guy. You're the smart one, and I am the meatball gut boy.
I don't know about that. Close it up.
Yeah, let's close it up. How the hell do we close this show?
We just
You
do it.
can be our first subscriber.
You can.
You can be our number one, our number fun, if you will. Just go hit that subscribe button. We're out here posting videos. We're getting progressively more and more dumb names. And it's going to be really helpful once the season gets closer.
If someone has made it this far into the episode, is it more likely that they're listening or more likely that they're dead and hadn't turned the show off?
Yeah. I feel like the paramedics are in the room right now.
If you're a paramedic in the room, hit
Just-
subscribe.
Before you leave their room, I know the body bag is already zipped up. Just go on over there and hit subscribe real quick.
I don't think
Nobody's
you get
gonna know.
unsubscribed from your YouTube channels if you die.
Yeah. So just let that ride, and we're going to have one consistent. And also, if you could just hit play on our playlist before you leave, too, that would be great. So shout out to all of our first responders that aren't cops, firemen, paramedics. You guys rule. As
First
we
responder,
always
first subscriber.
first subscriber. We really got to get into that nursing home. Just
If
like
you are
really good.
listening to this in a nursing home, just hit subscribe on their computer.
I know you don't know what that means, but there's a red button somewhere in the room that will get someone into the room that knows what that means.
To subscribe
Please do
for you.
that. Yeah. As we always say here on Pork Lift Certified,
Every time.
Couple of hard hogs. Fantasy on.
We never say that.
I say it every time, and it sucks every time. All right. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.